The question I hear a lot is, I fix my sugar, I reduce my inflammation, I'm finally sleeping, so why is my brain fog still here? If that's you, I'll address that in this video. Often our gut bugs make a toxic gas byproduct, and we've not been addressing that enough. The clue is a strange one, a rotten egg smell. That smell is from a gas called hydrogen sulfide, and it's being made by specific gut bugs quietly overgrowing in your gut. In small amounts it's normal, but in excess, especially in your small intestine, the research suggests it can interfere with the very energy centers in your cells. And that's the direct line to foggy, heavy brain feeling. So today I'll identify them for you, and I'll give you the MAP solution, MAP. In our last video, we talked about 4 big drivers of brain fog. It was the gut, sugar, inflammation, and sleep. In that video, that was the foundation, and if you have not seen it yet, I would watch that one first. This video here goes one layer deeper. There's an old idea often attributed to Hippocrates, and that's all disease begins in the gut. That's what he said. And now in 2026, science is actually proving this right. So let's talk about how I actually define the specific gut bugs for your brain fog. Not by guessing, but actual testing and using the current research. It's genuinely showing us the solutions. And I want you to know the research I'm sharing today is recent. This is from last year, 2025, and 2026 this year, not something from 20 years ago. Let me paint a picture to help you understand what's going on in your body. Think of a healthy gut like a rainforest. Hundreds of different species all living together, all keeping each other in balance. No single one gets to take over because the other ones hold it in check. That balance, that richness in the rainforest, it's what we call diversity. And in the research, it's one of the strongest markers of a healthy gut we have. Now picture the opposite. Picture a car park with a few tough weeds pushing up through the cracks in the concrete. Almost nothing else can grow. That's what we often see in a microbiome test in people with stubborn brain fog. Low diversity and a small handful of the wrong species taking over the whole landscape. Simply put, it's called dysbiosis. And here's something that's genuinely exciting for me to see in the research. In 2025, a study published in Scientific Reports, that was one of the Nature journals, was first linking the microbiome composition to objectively measuring the brain fog in people with chronic fatigue syndrome. They found significantly lower diversity in those patients. Interestingly, they found that they could just pick the people that had chronic fatigue just from looking at their microbiome test in over 90% accuracy. That's a pretty powerful clue, isn't it? And remember, dysbiosis isn't just one bad bug, it's lots of the good ones too. And the overgrowth of a few troublemakers in there. So let's talk about those troublemakers and who they tend to be. These are the hydrogen sulfide producers, bacteria like Desulfovibrio, which belongs to a class of bacteria called delta proteobacteria. It doesn't matter about the name. When these overgrow, they take sulfur from your gut and they turn it into hydrogen sulfide gas. That's that rotten egg smell I mentioned earlier. Now, a little bit of this gas is completely normal, and in small amounts it even plays a helpful role. The problem is excess. A 2025 review in Frontiers, that's a research article in nutrition, looks specifically at the sulfur metabolizing bacteria and the Desulfovibrio in particular as a player in the gut-brain connection. When these bugs dominate, the research suggests that hydrogen sulfide can interfere with the gut lining in the leaky gut and the mitochondria. And just to mention again, that's the energy manufacturing center in your brain and almost in every cell. And what it feels like fog. It feels like cloudiness in your head. It is also when a very specific SIBO type. SIBO stands for small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and there's a hydrogen sulfide subtype of SIBO in particular. Even in 2026, a standard breath test, which often gets done for SIBO, it only measures hydrogen and methane gas. Furthermore, the breath test only tests the gas, not specific organisms and diversity. So if your practitioner is not specifically looking for that on the deepest level, this can completely get missed. You get told the test is normal, don't worry, and yet everything driving your fog is actually not getting measured. That's why identifying the specific organisms matters so much. The second gut bug group is the overgrowth of bacteria like E. coli or Klebsiella. We all carry some of them, and in balance, they're a simple part of the normal balance and microbiome. The problem is when they're allowed to dominate or go out of control in numbers. These bacteria carry something on their outer wall called an endotoxin. Think of it like a splinter in your immune system, and it's constantly got to deal with that. A 2025 paper walked through the exactly mechanisms of how this worked. When there's too much of these endotoxins, and when the gut lining has become a little leaky, that leaky gut, it slips through, which simply puts the immune system on alarm and overdrive and drives inflammation right through the body. And as we covered inflammation last time, it's the driver of that fogginess and the most reliable source of brain fog there is. So you can start to see how these things just simply stack up on top of one another and make it more difficult and challenging for you to get through your brain fog. And the third piece of the research keeps pointing back to the fungal overgrowth. Here's why it's happening. Remember the rainforest? When the bacteria community thins out and the diversity drops, it leaves an empty space. And in the biological system, ecosystem, empty spaces always gets filled. Yeast and fungi move into that space, and some of them produce their own toxins. A 2026 study confirmed that Candida overgrowth rises as bacteria diversity falls. And that tracks right along with the gut inflammation. So now you have 3 separate fires potentially burning all at once: the gas, the endotoxins, and the fungal toxins as well. Here is what matters most in all of it. You can't see any of this from the outside. It's happening inside you. You can't feel which one it is. 2 people can walk in and have the exact same brain fog and have completely different pictures underneath. One is hydrogen sulfide and one is Klebsiella and inflammation. One might be fungal. Just recently I was looking over some results and it really surprised me. We had suspected fungal overgrowth along the way and everything pointed that way, but when we got the results back, it actually found that there was low diversity and almost no beneficial bifidobacteria at all. Those bifidobacteria are the really good ones, and they're really important to have. And this one finding changed our whole treatment direction. That's exactly why it's better not to guess. This is your story, and a one-size-fits-all approach, it's simply not going to find your answers to how to get better. So how do we identify it? How do we identify your map? How do we turn a guess into a real map? I call it your gut map, M-A-P, and it has 3 parts to it. Try this. When you speak to your practitioner, ask about the 3 specific things. First, a comprehensive stool microbiome test. You measure the M. This is your biggest one. It shows your overall diversity and whether species like Desulfovibrio, E. coli, or Klebsiella, and the good ones as well, the important ones too. Second, markers of your gut lining and inflammation, things like zonulin and calprotectin. This is analyzing A. These don't just tell you who is living in there, they tell you whether the wall is leaky and whether that's driving inflammation. And the third, for the fungal side, there's a range of possible tests, but an organic acids test shows exactly the most. If testing is too costly in this area, that one can be, or difficult to get where you live in the world, you could also just start paying attention to signs at home. Things like persistent sugar craving, or a white coating on your tongue, or recurrent bouts of thrush can all be quiet clues for you that there's an empty space in there and there's fungal overgrowth. Now put these 3 together and I call it the map, measure what's actually there. and you analyze the fire burning and you personalize the plan for you. You got to personalize it. It's individual plan. Instead of just guessing in the dark, you finally have a map of your own gut core. Now, I'll mention diet briefly because I know some of you are already wondering about that. Yes, for the hydrogen sulfide producers, very high sulfur foods can feed them. But please, please don't go out and cut everything out today after watching this. I mean that gently. Honestly, this is a mistake I've watched play out over the last 20 years in consults. People cutting out foods blindly before they even know what's actually going on and what they're dealing with. This can make your life very stressful and even confusing because some days are good and some days are not, and you're wondering which food was it. Honestly, cutting sugar is more helpful than the sulfur foods. It's better to starve the bugs rather than just slow the production of the gas because they're still there. And then if you have some sulfur foods later, they're just going to produce more gas. Please really try to cut out the sugar out of your diet as ASAP. I can give you hope that there's light at the end of the tunnel. I've watched it happen for so many people who've thought they've tried everything. If you're sick of trying to get your brain fog clarity back, please book in a one-to-one consult with me via the link below. If you prefer to just keep on learning via these videos, continue on with this video and I'll see you there and keep on learning.